Republican presidential candidate Jeb Bush has something like an actual plan for what he intends to do in regards to border security and the immigration crisis that we have going in America. And because so few candidates actually give us any idea of what they would do were they to become president, I feel like this is worthy of discussion. So there's many different aspects of this. It's a 6-part plan, a little bit vague on the details, but there is a little bit to go there. And so we're going to talk about some of the different elements of Jeb Bush's immigration plan. He wants to create more forward operating bases to maximize agents' time on the border by stationing them there for multiple days at a time. Patrol agents should be at the front line of a multi-layered defense in depth, where additional lines of defense increase the likelihood of detecting and apprehending illegal crossers. And so he wants to have sort of a dynamic, always changing set of bases that they send people based on detection of relative number of immigrants crossing over. And that does change from time to time. And so he wants to be a little bit more dynamic and flexible in that regard. You gonna vote with Jeb Bush yet?
Oh, absolutely.
You are, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he also is very pro-technology. Technology such as drones, advanced sensors, and radar can give our agents a fuller picture of the illegal activity that in turn will enable the country to better allocate resources on the border. And he's worried about the infrastructure along the border on our side being not up to the task of both allowing for quick transportation around and also protecting our agents from busted tires and things like that. He says, new roads are needed on the border to secure access to remote and rugged terrain to interdict smugglers and respond to the detection of illicit traffic by technology. Likewise, new boat ramps can provide Border Patrol riverine units more points to put their vessels in the water so they can patrol more effectively. It's very in the weeds, and I respect, I don't really care about these details that much, I'm gonna keep it real, but I do like that rather than simply saying, as some would, like Trump, I'm gonna build a big wall, and I'm gonna build it cheap, and I'm gonna make Mexico pay for it, he at least knows that they need to put boats in the river. Like, he has some actual information in this blog post that he put on medium.com. He seems to understand the problem a little bit. We might disagree fundamentally about how to go about fixing the problem, but he does seem to have at least been intellectually curious enough to do some of the research to generate this plan from.
It's such a low bar for the Republican Party, for any politician, when you have to sound at least a little more intelligent than Donald Trump. But yes, I agree with you. Jeb Bush seems to have more of a comprehensive plan because he not only touches on what needs to happen at the border, he also touches on what we should do with undocumented immigrants in the U.S. right now, which you'll get to in just a second. But his plan still seems to ignore the fact that right now we're not having a huge issue with Mexican individuals trying to come into the country illegally, right? When you consider the net amount of undocumented immigrants coming into the U.S., it's virtually zero at this point.
It's zero, or some people say it's negative. More leaving than are coming in any given year.
A lot of people are leaving the United States. And so using all this technology to, ramp up, or amp up, I should say, border security doesn't really make sense at this time. This is more about appealing to fear-mongering Republicans who think that we have a big issue with undocumented immigrants. Now, that's not to say that, this technology might come in handy in the future, but we've already been there. We've already done that. We're already using drones. We're already using a lot of technology in order to catch people as they're trying to cross the border illegally. And honestly, it's done absolutely nothing in terms of the drug smuggling into the country. And it's been somewhat successful when it comes to undocumented immigrants, but overall, not really, So, okay, so there's that part of it. But let's also talk about what he plans on doing with the 11 billion, right? No, million, sorry. 11 million undocumented.
11 billion. This country is getting crowded. No, you're making a lot of great points, and we're going to return to them. But here's a couple of the final points on his plan, or a summary of them anyway. Bush said he would require electronic verification for workers to decrease the likelihood those in the country illegally can be employed. He would send home those who are overstaying their visas. Bush also pushed for withholding federal funds from sanctuary cities. So he's gonna get some support from conservatives there. They like to demonize these sanctuary cities. This is his words. These 6 proposals, when combined with a rigorous path to earned legal status, would realistically and honestly address the status of the 11 million people here illegally today and protect against future illegal immigration. So look, he wants to have some sort of path for them, assuming that the path makes it all the way through the debate over this entire package. It's the sort of thing that often falls off and only the border security stays. But this does put him in somewhat similar company to his brother. Both of them not on the extreme edge of their party when it comes to immigration policy, which is good to see. He's extreme on other things, but not necessarily this. And so overall, look, I don't want him to be president, and if he's president, I don't want him to be able to pass immigration reform because I don't trust him with it. But in comparison to other Republicans, I think that we could do worse than something like this.
Yeah, again, the bar is extremely low.
It is low, yes.
But at the same time, here's what everyone probably already knows, but in case you don't, you have to understand. It doesn't matter who the politician is, whether it's Donald Trump or Jeb Bush. If either one of them get elected into office, God forbid, neither one of them are actually going to do anything about the immigration situation in the country, because immigration is a very complex issue.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the 11 million people that are currently here and they're undocumented, to say, oh, we're going to do mass deportations or we're going to get rid of people who have overstayed their visas. No, you're not, because that actually has a very negative impact on our economy.
Yeah.
A lot of different industries in this country rely on undocumented labor, and it's unfortunate because a lot of those people, a lot of those companies, I should say, or a lot of those farmers take advantage of them. Okay, so for you to say, oh, I'm just going to get rid of them, or if they've overstayed their visas, they're gone, it's not that easy. It's actually really difficult. Not only do they contribute to our taxes, not only do they contribute to Social Security, a benefit that they will never get to see because they're using, you know, someone else's Social Security number, they're also contributing to our economy. So one really interesting thing that I learned was that, you know, yes, undocumented immigrants do take jobs away from low-skilled workers in the country. But when it comes to high-skilled workers, they're actually a plus, because what they do is a lot of the grunt work that engineers and, you know, carpenters and all those other people working in, you know, different types of industries can, you know, basically use their labor so they can focus on the harder part of their jobs. So they help the economy in that way as well. It's a really interesting and complex issue, and unfortunately, we don't really have any politicians that are coming up with realistic solutions for it.
And we have to bear in mind, of course, that a lot of these the immigrants that we're talking about here have family, some of whom are American citizens, and so it's extremely complicated to, like, you can just say we'll get rid of them. And they will continue to say that, but actually doing it, as you say, is a lot more difficult. And look, I remember back in when I was an undergrad, it was very recently. We were reading books about spending on border security. It was written by a conservative who was largely in favor of increased spending on border security, but even he acknowledged that it's almost eerie how quickly spending to evade that security and break that security ramps up in response to the increased spending at the border. It is largely a waste of money. You are simply not going to be able to outthink. Like, a couple of federal agents are not going to outthink an entire population of millions who theoretically might want to get in. If you want to stop them from coming in, we know some ways to do that. One, you can do as he says he would do, but I doubt he actually would, make it more difficult for employers to employ undocumented immigrants, something that Republicans occasionally say, although we know that they don't want to do, because those employers want to have undocumented immigrants. They might one and all be conservatives, but they love illegal immigration when it comes to lowering their labor costs. You can do that. You can also, we know recently, one of the reasons that immigration has reached a net negative or net zero is you can wreck the American economy. That stops people from coming over and gets them to leave pretty quickly. I have no doubt that Jeb Bush would do his damnedest to accomplish that. And then also, you can do what you can to make primarily Mexico, but other Latin American and Central American and South American economies stronger and their universities stronger. And we've read recently that the increasingly competitive universities in Mexico are churning out more and more engineers and doctors and other highly skilled workers. When they have the opportunity in their own countries to succeed, coming to America becomes a less valuable or less interesting proposition. And those are all things that Jeb Bush is not interested in pursuing, perhaps. Hopefully, were he to become president, some of these policies would make both countries stronger, but I kind of doubt it.